Breaking news, and trust me, you're going to want to sit down for this one. Because the internet is currently melting faster than Martell Holt's patience at a reunion taping. Tasha K has dropped yet another infamous interview, and somehow, someway, Martell has found himself right back in the eye of the tornado, like it's his permanent address. The moment this interview hit the internet, timelines started shaking, comment sections went feral, and social media detectives clocked in like they were waiting for this chaos all year. Martell walked into that interview with the confidence of a man holding the secrets of the universe, announcing receipts, messages, proof like he was about to drop a historic leak, yet once again. The only thing that seemed to show up was confusion and the sound of millions of viewers asking, "Sir, where are the receipts?" Was this a revelation, a redemption arc, or just another episode of When Deflection Goes Wrong? And as the smoke rises and the reposts stack up, one thing is clear: something explosive just happened. And whether Martell wanted truth or sympathy, he might have ended up with neither, only a louder internet, sharper memes, and a million raised eyebrows wondering if this saga will ever end. Buckle up, because this storm is just getting started. The moment that interview went live, the internet felt like it had just been plugged into an electric socket, and reality. TV fans everywhere leaned forward because they could already sense chaos brewing, and let us be honest, drama involving Martell never arrives quietly. It marches in like a parade that refuses to be ignored, and this time he stepped into Tasha K's interview chair with that same confidence we have seen 1,000 times before, the kind that says, "I am finally ready to tell my truth and the world is going to eat it up," except, the problem is the world has heard him say that exact line more times than a theme song on repeat, and yet somehow the truth always arrives late, if it ever arrives at all. But he sat there composed, speaking slowly, emphasizing his pain and betrayal, painting himself as the misunderstood hero in a story that never seems to end. And for the first few minutes, the audience listened, waiting to see if finally this time the curtain would lift and something solid would appear. A screenshot, a message, a detail we had not heard a million times before, and instead what arrived was the same storyline, recycled like last season's footage, dressed in different words, but still familiar enough to make the internet exhale in collective disbelief. And somewhere across social media, 1,000 fingers started typing faster than light, because nothing sparks commentary like a man claiming to have evidence while showing absolutely none. And as Martell continued his dramatic pauses and layered sentences, Tasha tried to hold her composure, but viewers spotted the moment her expression shifted, that subtle flicker when a reporter realizes the breaking news might actually be the same news they have already broken too many times. And suddenly the comments turned ruthless, filled with people asking, "Where is the proof? Where are the messages? Where is anything besides speeches and memory monologues?" And as that interview kept rolling, it felt like watching someone dig the same hole deeper, insisting there is treasure at the bottom while everyone else is staring at the empty dirt. And then the internet did what it always does. It erupted with sarcasm, predictions, and digital side-eyes. And some users joked that Martell's proof must be stored in a magical vault guarded by unicorns, because at this point, nobody on the planet has seen it. And then somewhere in the middle of that online hurricane, Melody stepped into the narrative without speaking a single word. She simply posted a quiet line: "Truth needs no proof over time." And that one sentence shook the digital room more than any interview clip could, because it had calm certainty while everything around it was noise. And suddenly the audience shifted again, whispering that silence sometimes screams louder than speeches. And it truly felt like the moment where the story turned, not with fire, not with shouting, but with one quiet sentence floating above the chaos, creating the kind of tension that does not explode, but settles heavy in the air, waiting for what comes next. And right when people thought that tension had peaked, the story thickened, Like a plot twist nobody asked for, but everyone absolutely stayed to watch because suddenly, screenshots began circulating online claiming to be behind-the-scenes conversations, plans, strategies, whispers that Martell had walked into that interview, rehearsed rather than honest, and whether they were real or not did not matter to the crowd. Because perception on the internet travels faster than truth ever could, and the whispers turned into threads, and the threads turned into commentary videos, analyzing tone, expressions, pauses, and every second of that interview like a digital courtroom trial unfolding in real time, and comments started gathering beneath those clips, like storm clouds building weight as viewers argued about whether Martell was trying to rewrite history or simply trying to stay relevant in a story. The world had already moved forward from while others said he was trapped in his own narrative, unable to step out even though the door had been open for years, and then another live session popped up from Martell full of certainty and frustration, where he repeated once again that timing is everything and truth reveals itself when it should. But that only made the audience lean back and sigh as if they were tired. Passengers on a train going in circles instead of forward, and meanwhile, Melody continued to wear her silence like armor, focusing on work appearances and quiet success, and it felt like two opposite energies clashing, one trying to push a story louder and louder, and the other choosing to rise without saying anything at all, and watching it unfold became strangely addictive, like witnessing a story where the louder voice grows weaker and the quieter one grows stronger, simply because the world can sense intent and desperation no matter how polished the words are. And as this narrative played out across timelines, bloggers jumped in with dramatic titles, analysts dissected interviews as if decoding hidden secrets, and fans debated loyalty, truth, and history in threads longer than movie scripts, while every hour brought a new opinion clip, a new claim, a new comment that made the situation spin faster and faster until suddenly it did not feel like entertainment anymore. It felt like watching a man trying to convince the world that his truth exists somewhere, just not here. Not now, not yet, and with every promise that answers were coming, people's patience thinned. Because too many broken promises eventually. Yet even as the audience began to settle into their conclusions, the story refused to rest. Because speculation only grew heavier, and somewhere in the background, rumors surfaced about alleged phone calls, heated conversations, and private promises to reveal everything soon, as if the truth was always one announcement away, yet never arriving, and each new whisper only fueled the sense that we were watching a cycle rather than a revelation, and the cycle was beginning to feel painfully familiar. Because every dramatic statement felt like a scene we had seen before, and every emotional plea sounded like a repeat of yesterday's promise, and viewers who once leaned forward now leaned back, crossing their arms, waiting for something real to finally appear. But nothing concrete stepped forward, only more words, more insistence, more declarations that the world would eventually see who was right and who was wrong. And as Martell spoke through live comments and indirect hints, people noticed the exhaustion beneath the confidence, as though repeating a defense over and over had begun to take its toll. Because when you fight the same battle repeatedly, the audience stops seeing you as a warrior and begins seeing you as someone stuck in a pattern, unable to escape. And while some sympathized with the struggle, most watched with a sense of inevitability, as though they already knew how this chapter would end. Not in fireworks, not in exposed truth or shock, but in silence, a quiet resignation, where the noise finally dies, not because the story is complete, but because the crowd has grown tired. And in that stillness, the contrast between him and Melody sharpened more clearly than ever, because she did not need interviews, did not need responses, did not need to defend. She simply kept moving forward, her silence speaking a language louder than any broadcast could, and that quiet progress began to feel like a mirror held up to everything happening on the other side, and that mirror revealed not villains or victims, but choices: one choosing peace, growth, and distance, and the other choosing to explain, defend, and justify long after the world stopped needing to hear it. And as the dust continued to settle, it became clear that this was no longer about who had proof or who spoke louder. It was about who evolved and who remained stuck in a chapter that no longer served them. And the internet sensed it deeply, whispering that closure does not always come from winning a debate sometimes. Closure comes the moment you realize the world no longer watches. The argument has already walked ahead, and as viewers logged off and timelines slowed, the story found itself in a quiet space, where only truth or silence can endure. And silence was winning without trying because the audience had shifted, and once an audience shifts, it rarely returns, and the final question lingering in that quiet space was not whether proof would come or whether apologies would surface, but whether the chapter would ever truly close if one side keeps reopening the book while the other has already written a new one. And now that we have reached this point where the dust settles, the voices quiet, and the truth and the noise sit side by side waiting for time to decide what really mattered, it is your turn to speak, because stories like this do not end when the credits roll, they end when the audience gives its final verdict. So tell me in the comments, do you think this was a man fighting to be heard? Or a man fighting not to be forgotten? Do you believe the truth is still coming, or has the truth already been revealed without a single receipt shown? Let your voice be part of the story, because every opinion shapes how this moment will be remembered. And if you want more deep dives, more unraveling of reality twists, and more moments where silence speaks louder than claim,